Education Subcommittee of the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And if that's not the meeting you wanted, then you're in the wrong place. Let us begin by looking at the agenda. And if Bethany, you could post it, we could all take a peek at it together.
Just one moment.
All right, I'm going to review the agenda just so that we are all in the same place about what's supposed to happen today. We are going to ask for public comments. The only person I see who's from the public is Lucy Cruz. Lucy, did you have something that you wanted to share with us today? Okay, I'm going to assume that's a no.
Oh, on screen now.
Okay, great. I can't see her, but that's great. Oh, Lucy, do you have anything you want to share, or are you just visiting?
Yeah, Lucy's gonna, is going to interpret, was gonna interpret and ask. She's gonna.
I think not. Okay, we'll proceed. And Lucy was here last month also, so it may be that this is someone who just is watching for interest from the public, which is absolutely fine. You're more than welcome. All right, back to our agenda. We want to review the minutes of the last meeting. And hopefully you, those of you who are members, did see those. Would you like us to post them up so that you can look at them again? Or are we all set? I actually don't.
We can't vote on the minutes because we don't have enough people from.
That's what I was just about to say. I was counting, and we don't have a quorum for the first time ever. And so we can't really vote on the minutes. We will push that off to the next meeting, and we'll look at 2 months worth of meetings at our next meeting. All righty. Back to the agenda. As you know, we have been thinking hard about the possibility of creating an agency in state by deaf for deaf. And we have been researching what services already are out there so that we don't duplicate efforts. We had a very good session with Sharon Applegate from Deaf Inc. And the group suggested that we invite Margaret Malloy and her agency, Ocean State Center for Independent Living. And Margie spoke with her supervisor, and she was gracious enough to come today. And so we have both Corrine and Margie today with us. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about what services are available through OSIL for deaf individuals. And if you would hold your questions for the end, then we can go ahead and find a little bit more out from these great folks who've been doing this work for quite a long time. Corrine, you don't know many of the people here, so I am going to ask people to introduce themselves. And so we can take the agenda down, and then I'm going to ask people to just quickly introduce themselves since Corrine is new to us. I'm Nancy McGuire Heath, and I am the director at the School for the Deaf, and I chair this subcommittee of the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, and it focuses on all issues of education and advocacy for deaf children and adults. Okay.
Hello, I am Ernest Covington III. I am the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you also.
Jen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jen Paris from the Office of Rehab Services. I'm a vocational rehab counselor from the Deaf and Hard of Hearing unit. I'm one of the counselors.
Nice to meet you.
Me too.
Bethany, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Bethany Lank. I am the Contract Project Coordinator for the Commission.
She makes sure we actually get online and we can see each other, which is a good
Very good.
All right, so we usually have several other members. Tim Riker and Paul Hewitt are members here. Marjana Pena is a member here, and Leela Foley. So we're missing quite a few people, unusual for us, but this is being recorded and I'm sure they will watch it. So I really appreciate your both coming, and I'm going to turn it over to you, whichever order you want to do this in.
Okay. Maggie, would you like me to go first and I can do an overview of the services and then you can do specific?
Go ahead and start. Yeah.
Okay. So again, hi, I'm Corrine O'Donnell. I have been with OSL for 7 wonderful years. I may retire here. I love it so much. I am the program director for independent living services. What I'll do is I'll give you a brief because I can kind of talk about OSL for a very long time. So I'll try to not to take up your whole meeting, but I'll give you an overview of our services, which are not only for the deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind community, but for all consumers with disabilities. So OSL started in 1988. It's called the Center for Independent Living. I'm going to pretend like you don't know too much about us.
Yep.
So we're a Center for Independent Living. Every state has them. Some states have many. Rhode Island only has one, and that's us. At one time, there was also Parry, if you remember Parry.
Yep.
But now OSL is the only one in Rhode Island. We have many services for the community, probably 15 to 16, I believe 15 different types of services. So our biggest programs that we have are our assistive technology program, our home modification program. We do quite a bit with our gift of hearing, where we provide hearing aids at a lower cost for folks, and Maggie's Deaf Services program. They're probably our 4 biggest programs that we have. Everyone who comes to OSL for services does need to be self-directed, and it's a consumer-driven program. The consumers need to want to participate with us, take part in the program, want our services, request the services. We're not an agency who will try to provide services for anyone who's not willing to participate. And again, they need to be self-directed. Some of our programs have income guidelines that we must follow, depending on, what grant we use. We get federal and state funding. So depending on where the money's coming from, we do have income guidelines for some of them that we have to follow. Those that we do not would be the Deaf Services program, unless we end up having to purchase equipment for them. Then we would need to look into financials, advocacy, peer support, our nursing home transition. All of those, we do not request or look at any type of financial guidelines. Those that we do look at financial guidelines might be our assistive technology program. So for instance, someone comes to OSL and they might be in need of a rollator, a walker, different things, just even a reacher. Vision equipment we do quite a bit of. We do purchase and provide folks who have visual disabilities with the large magnifiers that you see. They cost thousands of dollars sometimes. So for some of our anyone who is requesting a piece of assistive technology, we do look into financial guidelines, and I'll give you a little bit about what those might look like. We have a large home modification program. We provide many people with ramps. We provide grab bars. We've even done a raised flower bed for a woman who uses a wheelchair and could not get out to her garden anymore. We built a raised flower garden for her so that she could actually use her wheelchair, get all around it. So different home modifications, even railings. We do stair lifts. So folks can get from first floor to second floor when their bathroom might be upstairs or their bedroom might be upstairs. So home modifications, AT, the Gift of Hearing program is a collaboration that we have with the University of Rhode Island. Again, it's called the Gift of Hearing program. And our coordinator will work with the University of Rhode Island to provide hearing aids at a much lower cost. If someone was to go to one of the private places that you know of and purchase a hearing aid, it might cost them $4,000. These hearing aids are the same ones. They're brand new. And URI works with us and the consumer, and they are either $600 each.
Wow.
Or depending on how much money is left in our grant money, we often pay for at least one or two. Right now, most people, we're paying for 2 hearing aids for them. And our program is always busting at the seams because there are a lot of people who really need those hearing aids and can't afford $4,000 to $5,000 for a hearing aid. It's not a difficult process for any of our programs. And I'll give you how that works in a second. We also have a YMCA program. So for those folks who might be at home, not able to get out, not able to socialize, don't have a lot of friends, still need that, want that physical activity. Maybe they want to lose a little bit of weight, but it's really geared towards getting them active, just getting them to meet people, socialize. That's why we have the program. Our number one concern isn't whether or not someone loses 10 pounds, it's just getting them out into the community. So we work with the YMCA and we have an agreement with them where if someone's fits our guidelines, we will pay for 3 months at a time, and they only need to attend 2 to 3 times a week, and we'll pay for 3 months. If they follow that commitment, we'll pay for another 3 months, and we'll do it for up to a year. We don't provide transportation, but we can certainly, we help them work through that if that's something we could assist with. We have a nursing home transition program. We have many calls. They might come from social workers, hospitals, family members. Someone's in the hospital, in the nursing home, and we help them transition out. Maybe it's to their own home, a family member's home, to housing, whatever that might be. We have a coordinator that works very closely with Medicaid, Medicare, other state agencies, the family, the consumer. Right now, we're doing lots of Zoom meetings because they just can't get in there. So we have that program.
Let's switch interpreters at this point. Thank you.
Yep, I'll wait. We're good?
Yes.
We have a transition program. So someone who might be in high school, 11th, 12th grade, transitioning to a job, to college, we would help them. We have a coordinator who's young himself. He's only in his 20s, and he would help them with resumes. We've done mock interviews to help them interview. We've helped them with the college process, applications, meeting people in the colleges, trying to help them locate and secure jobs outside, what might be appropriate. And with that, a lot of advocacy in the schools to make sure that they're receiving the services in the schools that they might not be receiving, or the school might not be aware of, that they should be providing for them. So there's a lot of that. What else do I have? Make sure I hit everything here. We don't actually have a housing program, but if we have folks on who are our consumers, and they need help with applying for subsidized housing, we will help them apply. We will help them with the applications if they need it, understanding what they need to do. So we can help them with that. Advocacy is a big one, especially in Maggie's program. And again, this is for any consumer. We might have a consumer call who's having problems in a housing authority and they need advocacy. Maggie has many people that she provides advocacy for every day. She could probably tell you a little bit about that. Peer support we provide. We do have staff that have disabilities themselves. So obviously they can provide peer support to folks that need it. Many times that goes hand in hand with Maggie's program, our deaf services program. And it all starts with our INR, our information and referral. So if you know of someone or a consumer calls, a hospital calls, a social worker calls, a family member calls, it all comes into one spot. That's our INR. They will take down some information. Again, the consumer needs to want the services, want to be involved with the services. So many times we will ask to speak with them. There are instances where, that might not be possible, but we talk to the consumer, determine what it is that they're interested in, what type of services might they need. It might take 10 minutes or they're very chatty and it takes us 40 minutes, but we take that information and determine what the services might be. It goes through one of the program directors, and then it gets assigned to someone. That independent living specialist, which is what we call them, then gets in touch with that person, the consumer, sets up for their first independent living assessment. So either the consumer comes in or 99% of the time we go out to them. And we meet everyone in their home or wherever they might be living. And we perform that IL assessment. Usually it takes about an hour. It depends on, how it can take more. Perform that assessment and determine if we can provide these services and just get the ball rolling. Maybe it's equipment they need and we need to put in for that equipment. Maybe it's a ramp that they need and we start the process on getting that for them. Again, as I said, some of them have income guidelines, so I'll give you an idea. So for those that do have income guidelines, let's say we need to provide them some equipment. A person living alone can gross each month up to $4,849. If they were living with their spouse, for instance, and it's two people, it would be $5,373. That's per month. So that's not too bad. And they can have up to $25,000 in liquid assets, cash in the bank, CDs, anything they can turn into cash and not pay a penalty, we would have to include. So many people are living on Social Security that we work with. They're not making $4,849 a month. And many of those folks living off their Social Security don't have $25,000 in the bank. They might not be calling us if they did. So most people that do end up coming to us, we do end up being able to serve. There are some people that we aren't able to serve. So for instance, someone who has Medicaid, we can serve them, but what we do is called a fee-for-service assessment for Medicaid. Medicaid pays us to do an assessment, determine what they need, and then they provide what they need. They provide the ramp, they pay for it. They provide the grab bars, they pay for it. They provide, but we do the assessment. So we work very closely with Medicaid. Neighborhood Health Plan is another one that works the same way. We do a lot of fee-for-service assessments for Neighborhood Health Plan. What else can I tell you?
Do you have a board of directors, or who is your boss?
We do have a board of directors. My boss, so I'm Maggie's supervisor. And as I said, there are two program directors. And the other one would be Helen I. Simone. She works with the AT Home Mod gift of hearing. And I do many of the others. Maggie's program, nursing home transition, YMCA, youth transition. So there's the two of us that oversee the different programs. And then above us, we have an executive director who right now is Beth Pinkham. She's our interim executive director. We're in between one that recently left and a new one coming in, but she's been with us for many years and is our acting interim executive director. And then we do have a board of directors.
Are any of those on the board disabled themselves?
Yes, 51% has to be disabled. And we do have at least that, a little more than that. As are many of our staff. We have quite a few staff that also have disabilities. Any other questions? So it all starts with a phone call. If you have someone who you think could be a consumer of ours, they could always give us a call and we can determine if that's possible. If not, we do our best to provide them with information on the services that someone else might be able to provide for them. We try not to leave any call just hanging without, hey, we don't do that. So we have an awesome information and referral person with lots of knowledge and knows everything about everything going on in the community. So she comes up with many things. Last thing I didn't mention is we also have, see, I could do this for hours, but we also have a donation exchange program. There are things that we don't provide, for instance, a Hoyer lift, an electric wheelchair. But we often get people who call us and say they want to donate something like that to someone. And instead of just saying we don't take that type of a donation, we will keep their name and number and reach out to the staff members to see if they had any consumer or know of anyone who might be looking for that. Or sometimes we get calls in all the time saying, hey, does anyone know how I can get a Hoyer lift or an electric wheelchair? My insurance won't pay. So we have a really nice small donation exchange program where we hook up two different people and they can work with each other to donate and receive some type of equipment that they could use.
That's an excellent program. That's a
Yeah.
really excellent service. I get so many calls from people asking for those things and I didn't know to refer them to you. So
Yep. Yep.
that's good to know.
Yeah. We have another last thing. We have lunch and learn once a month at the end of the month. And that might be something that any of you might want to join. For instance, this month it's going to be on April 28th. And if you went to www.osl.org, there will be a link and it will connect you right to our lunch and learn. And this one will be on OSL services, an overview like I'm doing now, but then it will focus on 3 of them. And the 3 IL coordinators, one for the YMCA, the youth transition program and nursing home transition, will go more in depth about their programs and what they provide. So we do that. The 3rd, is it Maggie, or last Wednesday of the month? I forget. This one's on the 28th. So that would be the last. But it's once a month at the end of the month, and they're always up on the osl.org website and even on our Facebook page. So we can do that.
Oh, it's excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
Any other
good.
questions?
I do have another question. These
Sure.
are all questions that we're asking all of our presenters. You did mention about fee for service, that you get neighborhood health or Medicaid that you will go out and do the assessments for. Other than that, where does your funding come from?
So some of our programs are funded with some Part C money, Part B money, and then Our personal care attendant program, we have CNOM money for, which I didn't even mention our personal care attendant program, which is very small. But we have a pool of money from CNOM where we are able to pay for the attendants that are providing the care for some of consumers. We have 6 right now on the program. It's not a large pool of money.
Mhm.
But typically they get anywhere between maybe 30 and 40 hours a week
Mhm.
covered. It depends on what the assessment is. We have an RN and an OT assessment done, as well as their regular IL assessment, come up with the number that we're able to provide them services for and pay for. And the money goes directly to the consumer, who then pays their attendant. So the consumer is their boss.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a great method. So that funding comes from CNOW. And who pays your salaries? All of your salaries are paid from Part B and Part C?
Yep.
No
And-
grant, no grant funding?
We have, well, some small grant funding, some money from United Way.
Mhm.
Corinne, I'm sorry, can you repeat the name of the fund? It sounds like CNOM.
It's CNOM. It is CNOM.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful for the interpreter.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate it. That was a very thorough overview and very clear. I was able to take very good notes because it was so clear. I'd like to turn our attention to Margie for a minute and have her take us through the kinds of things she might do with a deaf consumer. I'm sure there's a variety of things, Margie, but and I'm familiar with a few things that you're doing right now with someone that we both know, but I'm just curious, what kinds of issues come to you in your deaf program?
Okay, so do you want me to explain some of those issues that the consumers have? Would that be a good way to approach it? Nancy, is that what you're
Well,
asking?
we don't want names, of course, but we just wonder what kinds of services, if I were deaf, what would I come to you for?
Ah, very good. Okay, so first of all, I can explain what we do. And I will try to be brief with each section. And if there's any questions or confusion, please ask me for clarification. So there are 5 different aspects. We could always add more too. Because of COVID-19 right now, we'll be doing more other kinds of services as well. So we have peer counseling and support and advocacy. We have skills training. We have citizenship, driver's ed, training for driver's licenses, consumer education. We also work with other service providers at OSEL and other agencies as well, like the Rhode Island School for the Deaf. And we work with Bridgemark. We also work with many other agencies as well. So I can explain more in depth about some of the peer counseling and advocacy. For an example, we might help a consumer advocate for themselves. One example would be how to get an interpreter for their doctor's visits, for their dentist visits, to go to the Social Security office, apartment hunting and housing, meeting with the property manager in the office, all of those kind of things. Hospitals, big area. That's an issue.
Sure.
We also help with housing applications and all the things go with that process. We offer bills and letter translation because many consumers do not understand the paperwork that they're receiving at their homes. They'll get a letter, a bill, and they can't comprehend it. So what we do is explain it. We tell them what it means and basically translate the English into ASL. For skills training, that could involve budgeting, banking, using public transportation, organization in their homes, computer training, basic computer, communication skills, training about using equipment that they might need in their homes, like the doorbell, fire alarm, video phone. Many people still might be using TTYs. They don't know how to use it, how to use a CapTel or a caption phone, how to use Relay, all of those kind of things, how to use their own video phone. Then on to citizenship. We have training and driver's ed training. Those are a one-to-one. So we have somebody assigned to work one-on-one with each of our consumers. Consumer education. Pre-COVID, we had the lunch to learn in the Pawtucket office every month. And there'd be a big group showing up in person, deaf and hard of hearing, deaf blind. They would actually come in. With the Lunch and Learn program, if they were there, they could stay afterwards and there was social time.
Nice.
So that's really essential for those folks to have that time interacting with each other. We're going to switch interpreters.
And since COVID started, we have seen the need for understanding what's happening with COVID-19. Here in Rhode Island, we have worked with Mike Bear. We have set up meetings with the Deaf Spanish group every few weeks. Because I really feel that they're not understanding what was happening at the time with the governor's, news press conferences on TV. It was just overwhelming to them. So very often we would try to get a group on VP, together and explain what was going on to them. So Mike Bear, he would really take the time to explain, and then I would add some support. So we made sure that they were understanding what was happening. And it was really a large help to the group. It was really helpful. I also help find employment benefits, help people apply. Often they do not understand how to use a computer. So there is a lot of work with DLT, the Department of Labor and Training, and Mike Bear, with that connection that we have to make sure that they understand how to fill out the unemployment benefit paper. It's not easy for them to really understand what they're doing with the computer. And so we're there to give some help to them, some of them for that. So I want to be able to explain to each consumer that I work with is very different.
Mhm.
It's really their goals, not mine, that we're working on. They set up their goals and I help them to become independent. So for an example, I'll give you a few examples. One consumer that I worked with on citizenship, training for that. She went in to fill out the paperwork. This was before COVID-19 struck. There was no interpreter. That office had nothing. So the two of us filed a complaint against the CSS. So then in the future, they would understand that they needed to provide an interpreter for appointments. It doesn't matter how short the appointment is, how long the meeting is, it is their right to have an interpreter there. And so that is just so important, you know, at US citizenship state and, US Citizenship and Immigration Services. So after that happened, in the future, they have always had an interpreter. And, you know, they're eligible for a visa for permanent status after 10 years. So let's see, other issues. I can think of 2 deaf mothers planning to have babies. And they really needed support with the hospital. You know, there's no interpreter there. And so we would work together, you know, A to Z, we would work together and make sure that they would have interpreters for the birthing classes, for doctor's appointments, at women and infants in the hospital. So we partnered, the consumer and I partnered to get interpreting set up for that ongoing. And the interpreter for the birth was there and it was successful. And so, you know, I did that with 2 different deaf women and that was really successful. I was just thinking if I can always add more, but I don't want to take up your whole meeting.
Well, a lot of the meeting is about you, so that's just fine. We really, we're so pleased that these services are available. I can speak for myself. I did not realize how wide the range of services was that you are offering at OSL. And I'm very pleased to know that this service is available. These services are available. They're so diverse. I'm sure you never know when people walk in the door what you're going to be offering that day.
You're right.
Anyone else have questions? I want to bring to your attention that Tim Riker, another one of our members, has just joined us. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Tim. This is Corrine and Margie from OSL.
Hi, Tim. This is Corrine. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Tim. Yes, also nice to meet you, he says. Okay.
Before Margie and I, this is Corrine again, but before Margie and I are done with our piece, can I add a couple things?
Yeah, just let Tim introduce himself. I just
Oh,
asked.
great. Oh, I'm sorry.
You want me to, you know, I've met Margie. I've never met Corrine, but I am a teacher, an instructor of ASL at Brown University. I also work as the chair of the Rhode Island Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I'm the current chair. And I've been to one of your lunch and learns. I presented about self-advocacy and things, so, and different events. So I've been there. And also I live very close to your office, actually. I think it's like a mile away. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We're glad you're here.
Margie says, I also had a couple of things I wanted to add.
All right, well, you guys can decide who's going first.
Go ahead, Maggie.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. So I just wanted to also add that the consumers face some very difficult challenges with reading and writing. And that continues to be a problem. I don't want to be negative, but I just, that's something I wanted to add. No, I could go on, as Corinne said, I could go on for a long time with things that I do and what I work with the consumers about. And I really look forward to the needs assessment for deaf and hard of hearing adults. The education advocacy, I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you. Corinne, did you have stuff to add?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. To add to what Maggie's saying about when working with her consumers, we also will pair Maggie with one of our IELTS specialists sometimes who might work in the home modification department. We've done that before so that they can do their piece with Maggie and their consumers so that we're providing, you know, that service, and the two of them might team up and work together. I also neglected to tell you that we get some money from the Rhode Island Foundation. So we do have a grant there for visual equipment. I kind of forgot about that. And also through ATAP for our device exchange and loaner program. So I've neglected to mention those two. The last thing I want to say is we've received some CARES money, and it's a good sum of money. And we already had a wonderful food drive. Maggie took part in that, and we set our her consumers. When the word got out, we had them sign up through a registration process, and we gave them an entire day to come when Maggie was there to make sure that, you know, we had some good communication going. But we provided them with 5 boxes of food, a large CARES bag, and then a gift card to a supermarket. And it was a great day. We did 135, I think, people from the community. They didn't have to already be our consumers. So it went out to anyone in the community. This June 7th through the 11th, we're doing another one. And I'm sure we'll do more after that. But we're having another one June 7th through the 11th, and Maggie will be getting that out to her consumers. And we'll be putting that out to the community. There are no income guidelines for that. They just need to have a significant disability. And we're looking at doing up to 200 families in our next food event. So that should be fun. We also are working with our consumers through some of that CARES money. We're helping them with technology that they might need so that they can Zoom with their doctors, so that they can have an iPhone, you know, to communicate with people, an iPad so that they can, you know, do what they need to do. So we're working, we hired with our CARES money 2 tech gentlemen, and that's all they're doing is working with our consumers and working with them on making sure that they have tech support, whether it's just training or we are actually purchasing different pieces of technology so that during this COVID time, they don't lose contact with everyone. So now I'm done.
That sounds like a marvelous program. Well,
Thank
looks
you.
like Margie's adding something.
Yep, I have two more things that I just wanted to add. The response to Corinne's comments about the technology program. I do have one consumer who just started, we worked with OSO and she's working with a technology person and a sign interpreter. And it's just been so successful. And that person had never used an iPhone or a cell phone in their whole life before.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's a huge change in that person's life, and she's so happy to have the iPhone. So things are just moving along for her. And one more, oh, I forgot that one. So I guess it's not important. Maybe it'll come up later, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone else in attendance today have any questions for these hardworking women?
Hi, it's Tim. I do have a question. First of all, thank you for joining this meeting and your presentation about OSO. I used to work for a consumer advocacy, independent living, similar to what your job is, for a year. But I learned a lot from your presentation, and I always struggle with where I used to live in California. There were several different people providing this kind of service in the metro area. And Rhode Island is a similar size to that area. And I moved here and I realized, where are all the services? Who are the people working? So when you just listed out all of those services, I realized who's doing all that work. But so it's, it's nice to have more resources, more people working on it. But what would your vision be? What do you think you need more of? A special person doing a specific job, or funding, or what would improve things here in Rhode Island? And again, your office is in Pawtucket, right? So, maybe there's missing a gap in the South County. I don't know. I just wanted to know your perspective about it. Margie says, I'm going to let Corrine respond to your question, but we have 3 locations. There is one in Pawtucket. There is one in Warwick on Warwick Avenue. And that one is really starting to grow. That's our second, location in Warwick for OSO. And we do have a technology location. It's near Post Road in Warwick. So yeah, we have 3 locations actually. But I'll let Corinne answer. Tim says I'm going to take my camera off so it's visually better.
Margie took the easy answer. The tougher answer is, yeah, we find that a lot of the services that we do provide, thankfully we do provide, especially in, the advocacy piece that Margie does, and that I don't think there is enough of that in Rhode Island. What to actually do about that, I'm not sure. So I don't have a great answer for you, except that it is, Rhode Island has very little compared to many other states. We did have 2 centers for independent living. We now only have 1. And when Parry closed up, we got all of their consumers in a day. So we have grown quite a bit. When I started here 7 years ago, I think there were 9 staff, we're 26. So we've grown quite a bit from 1 center to 3. But I don't know how much more we ourselves can grow. We do have a plan. We've had a strategic planning committee. The plan is to keep growing. The plan is to provide even more services, bring on even more staff, increase funding. So we're going in that direction. And we, you know, there are different plans in place to continue. We would like to have another deaf services coordinator teamed up with Moggy, and we have a, you know, we're working on plans to do that. So we have 2 Moggies. But that's about all I can say about it right now. It's always a work in progress, and we definitely could use, you know, Moggy times 10.
Okay, I guess I just want to clarify. In California, it seemed like everybody paid attention to, you know, deaf, blind, deaf, hard of hearing. There was, let me see, there was one person who focused on teaching about communication and how to express yourself, teaching sign, reading and writing. There were 2 people working on basic employment skills. Let's see. There were 3 advocates, you know, kind of the same as I believe what Marky's doing. But there was one person who was focused on hard of hearing, 2 people who were more focused on deaf folks. And also they had a deaf lawyer who worked there for, you know, support and counseling, legal counseling, you know, helpful to file a grievance. I believe they had interpreting services. It was just all in one. There were just so many services. They also had independent living, job coaching. So it seems, I'm hoping that Rhode Island will be able to meet that or better. So we just need to continue to identify what's missing. And so, you know, that's why that needs assessment will really help us get that full picture about where the gaps are. And then we'll be able to figure out what to do next and how to get the right services. I mean, because deaf, blind people don't have SSPs, they don't have so many things. There's so many resources. And so I guess that's why we invite groups to come so we can learn more about Rhode Island and what you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that was really very informative. I cannot thank you enough for agreeing to come. You're welcome to stay, but I don't want to keep you if you have things you need to do. I just really want to express our deep appreciation for your taking the time as we're trying to figure out how we can be in a position to be helpful. We need to first know what the needs are and what's out there. And just because it's out there doesn't mean you have enough people doing it, as you said.
Right.
And it seems to me, especially with COVID, that these needs that people have are just going to get larger and larger. I think we're going to see a couple of years of great need before things taper off again. And so I do really appreciate your being here. And we will take just a 2-minute break so that our interpreters can catch their breath. And then we're going to go to the next part of our agenda, which is an update from our commissioner of what's going on before we actually get to talking about a needs assessment. So let's just turn off our cameras for just a few minutes.
I want to thank you all for having us. Thank you very much.
Well, we really appreciate your making the time.
Yes.
You're welcome to stay,
Marty
but
says
we
thank you.
understand if you go. Let's turn off our cameras for just a few minutes and let's say 5 minutes and then we'll be back. All right.
Hi.
Oh, hello, Ernest. Can you update us? What's going on?
Yeah, you're very bright. The background is so bright, Ernest. Wow. That'll be better, I'm sure Tim's saying.
Still bright.
Oh, 1 second. Maybe if I move a little bit, it'll be better. That is better. Yes. All right. So I'll just give a brief summary. There are two things that I want to talk about. One is I really want to thank Nancy for having the presentation on June 19th. Is that right? June 19th?
Oh, you mean graduation? Yes, yes.
Yes, and I'm going to be speaking. Is that so? Sorry, the interpreter missed that. Yes, graduation. So I'm excited about that. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward.
me too. Me too.
Yes. The other thing I wanted to say is the person who's in contact with it looks like April Mann Center. They want to meet, but they're waiting. They're so busy and they're out on vacation. So we're waiting for that. I've emailed and they said that they'd be happy to talk to me, but they wanted to wait until they're ready. So
From the Spellman
Spellman Center, excuse me, the Spellman Center.
Oh, that's good news.
Yes, it is good news. And what they said was that they are hoping that they could come to the education committee and speak, but we haven't heard a confirmation yet. And I know they're overwhelmed. So I'll keep in touch and see what happens when they're ready and when they feel comfortable, and then we'll move forward from there. So the third point I wanted to say is good news. I know with Margie here and Corrine talking about their services at OSL, all the different topics that arise for consumers, especially related to COVID. And Mike Baer has been extremely busy working with the group with Margie and explaining to people about COVID and all the facts. And we have hosted a vaccine. We're having a boat vaccine time for interpreters at Sauconnet in Cranston at the Rhode Island Vaccine Center. And it's coming up May 1st. It'll be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have actual on-site interpreters that are going to be provided and slots that have been dedicated to us. We have a special link for deaf and hard of hearing people to sign up. That link is only going to deaf and hard of hearing people. There are 50 slots available. So that's going out to the community. It'll be first come, first serve, whoever signs up and gets those 50 slots. When they come in, there'll be an actual interpreter available and they'll be in little groups. So at one time, you know, the deaf and hard of hearing people who come will be able to access the services of the interpreter. The interpreter will accompany a group of 6 people up to the registration, go through the process with them, then go with another 6. So it'll be all day. It's 8 to 4, but it'll start to wrap up at 3 because of the time for observation after the vaccine. But we're going to start sending it out tomorrow with the link. And it's a private link. Again, if people click on it, they can register and sign up. There are some deaf and hard of hearing people who could. We cannot share this link widely to the general community. It's only for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. They do not want non-deaf people there for that slot. And if somebody comes in before 8 or after 3, there are other services. We're using FEMA VRI, which is a great service where the interpreter's on a screen, the deaf person arrives and they have the FEMA VRI interpreter. It gives them the link to download the app and they can use that to communicate back and forth. And then they can see all the information. They proceed. We have a CDIs and 2 freelance people like floaters covering for. I'm sorry, you were talking about FEMA. You're talking about the person. Sorry, the interpreter wanted to just clarify. We're talking about the live interpreters now. So there'll be 1 certified deaf interpreter and 2 ASL interpreters on site. And one of them will be like a floater so that they'll be available when the deaf people are in observation after the vaccine. So as I said, the interpreters will accompany a group of 6. They'll go through the registration. The person administering the shots will have to ask some questions. Then they go into that open area where they sit and wait for 15 or 20 minutes. And if a nurse approaches and asks if the person's all right, obviously the interpreter will be available. The interpreter will be there for 15 or 20 minutes, and then that group will leave. So that's our plan at this point, and we've been working with the Department of Health in coordination with them to work that out. That's May 1st. And again, 8 to 3. And there'll be a private link for people to sign up. If they can't get there during that time slot, that's fine, because we have the VRI services. We're also providing voice to text for hard of hearing people who come in. There'll be a way that they'll, the National Guard who are running the Sauconasset site know how to respond if somebody identifies as hard of hearing. They'll help them through the process with the voice to text. So that day will be very accessible, fully accessible. And I don't know if that level will be repeated after May 1st. It's a trial run. If May 1st is successful for us, then they may offer it again, or it might be a one-time thing. What I am hoping, though, is the 50 slots will all be used up and all those people will have complete access. So I'm very excited to share that with you. That's my report. Those are the 3 items I wanted to cover.
Thank you very much. Time to get those links out. May 1st will be here before we know it. That's wonderful news. We only have 15 more minutes. There is another meeting coming in at 6. And so we really need, oh, he'll email tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to send out the private link tomorrow. We'll send it out tomorrow.
Great. Margie, I'm going to step out of my role for a minute. You and I share a client. That might be a really important thing for the client to know about that vaccine day. Okay, we only have now 14 minutes left, and we have a very important thing we want to talk about, and that is, as we hear more and more about the services that are available, we really do need to figure out what is it that our deaf clients, consumers, friends, and neighbors need and want. Just because we build it doesn't mean they'll come, as they say. We need to really have a sense of what the consumers or what our neighbors need. And the question is really, what is the best way to do a needs assessment? Sharon Applegate stressed that you really have to start with a needs assessment so that you don't go down the wrong place. And so we really only have a short amount of time to brainstorm what might be some good ways to get information from the deaf community in Rhode Island. Does anybody have any thoughts? Where do we begin? Tim, I was hoping you'd have some thoughts.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Something wrong with my hair today. It's not cooperating with me today.
Great.
Okay, so I was thinking several times we've tried to do community forums or other ways, but I've noticed that's always a small number of people, and sending out a survey doesn't always connect with most deaf people. So maybe we need to do more, maybe we need to think more about the stakeholders. Perhaps we need small focus groups where we could really talk about the challenges and the barriers and services that are lacking. Rhode Island has some deaf people who that we don't even know where they are. They're out in the community somewhere and we don't have that connection to them. So we need to get to several different age groups, also deaf blind, immigrants, make sure that we are impacting each group. We could have a focus group for each of those kinds of groups. And that would maybe help us to better get a picture of what is missing, what the gaps are, and what people here need.
How would we get the word out, Tim?
Yeah, that requires money, probably. I don't know, maybe giving them $25 or $50 to get them to participate, you know, for maybe an hour and a half. But again, you know, who would host or run those kinds of focus groups or needs assessment? Could we get funding from the state or money to do that kind of thing? Because people are more, you know, willing to give of their time, if they're necessarily given something. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you know, maybe, you know, if we had like $10,000 to use, I'm not really sure how much that would cost actually, but that was just my thought.
So I've written that down, try to figure out incentives for participating in focus groups, and have the focus groups be by category, so to speak. Deaf folks who are immigrants who may need immigrant services, deaf blind folks, and talking about what services would be helpful for them. What other kinds of focus groups can we think about?
You mean categories?
Mhm.
For example, senior citizens. They do already have a place that they go, but so they're a little bit easier to find.
Mhm.
But an incentive or something to get people involved. Also, recent graduates from Rhode Island, the youth, the young adults, you know, who are, you know, maybe 18 to 30, well, maybe 18 to 25 or 30, I don't know. But, you know, their challenges in transitioning, in finding a job, getting support from the community. Did they feel like they could find a home? I mean, there's so many different things that happen within transition. You know, are they still living with their family? You know, what their life looks like after graduation. Then also working age, maybe 30 to 55 or 60. People who are working, that could include deaf blind, that could include college education, but you know, maybe not, maybe just high school. You know, maybe people without a college education, maybe with advanced training, people who are on SSI. Oh yeah, parents, definitely parents. You could identify so many different groups.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm sure that we could come up with more. Deaf, LGBT, what kind of challenges they face. Yeah, I don't know. There's just, there's, gosh, so many groups.
The issue would be who would do this? This is time consuming, and who would do it well? Do we write a grant to try to hire someone who would take this on? And in the grant, we would include incentives. Is this something Rhode Island Foundation might be interested in? Helping us do a needs assessment for the deaf community? Does any of this fall under the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing? Is any of this part of the charge that the commission has?
My understanding that health CARE, the Health System Transformation Project, is doing some gathering of information, but it's more related to health. But it also does include mental health and and it's not really a needs assessment so much, but maybe some of their information could be included in part of our needs assessment. Employment, that committee, there's some, but really no one's really done a needs assessment. And for money, yeah, we'd have to figure out a budget first. Interpreters, the cost of paying for that incentive, location. You know, we could host that kind of group in a room, or perhaps, you know, if we wanted to video it, you know, we would have to document it to make it a more formal assessment, more data. Yeah, I don't know. So, or if it's more informal, you know, I think a needs assessment might have different levels. And there are some grants to collect data that would help to benefit the larger grants. So like for research or, you know, looking to set up a program. So we'd have to look for kind of seed money in grants. Brown University, I'm not, they have the University of Mass. I've heard they'll give up to 50,000, University of Mass. But maybe other colleges have that kind of money. I don't know. Or, you know, maybe Rhode Island Foundation, as you said, Nancy. Yeah, I'm not sure. Nancy, you're on mute.
Rhode Island Foundation can also be helpful to guide us in where to go for money, even if they don't fund it. They are aware of many philanthropists, donors, grantors, and they might be willing to sit down and have an informational discussion with us. One area that the Rhode Island Foundation does not satisfy their one population, let me say that, one population that they don't do a whole lot for is the deaf. They do quite a bit for the blind, a little bit for the deaf, but not much. And it seems like we could petition it from that perspective, that this is a population they haven't done a lot for in Rhode Island. I think it's worth it, unless somebody has any other ideas. But we have to have a sense of what it is we're looking for. You can go, a needs assessment has to be crafted so that you're really looking for specific information. What is it that we're looking for? To ask people about needs that can't be met anywhere else in Rhode Island? Or are we just asking for needs in general that would help us think about what an agency that we sponsor could provide? It is 2 minutes before 6 o'clock and we have a very hard stop at 6. Margie, I just saw your message in the chat. Thank you for coming. We really hope you'll continue to be interested in this. We're hoping to build a wildfire of interest in finding out how we can create better services for deaf folks in Rhode Island. It's embarrassing how little services we have for our consumers and for our neighbors and friends who are deaf. So I think it's time to light a match to this and try to push ahead and see what we can come up with. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. When Ernest gets back to us about Spellman, we'll pick another date and we'll get that out to you, okay? Looks like, Tim, did you have something to say in closing? Did you have your hand up, Tim?
Yes, I'm thinking maybe you talked about the Rhode Island Foundation. Maybe we could either invite them or set up a meeting with them, with some of us, some of the members of this committee, whoever's available, to sit down and talk about what the options that are there,
Okay,
you know, maybe for our next action item.
yeah, all right, we can do that. And also, I'll put on the action that we're going to continue to invite the folks who have knowledge about the Spellman Center to come and speak with us, because we really need to understand that situation. We're going to let you work on that, Ernest, and I'll work on the Rhode Island Foundation, see if they want to have us go to them or if they would like to come to us. Thank you all. Have a great night. No more
Thank you.
Zoom
Thank
for
you.
me today. I'm done. Bye.
Bye.